Hey, hello everyone. Today we're gonna start our first workshop in the data engineering series. Today we're gonna look at Streamlit and Gradio, which are some of the tools you can use to build Python-based web apps. And so before we go to the coding part, let's understand what are Streamlit and Gradio. So both of these are Python libraries used to create web apps. So focusing on Streamlit first, it's like I said, it's a Python library to create web apps for machine learning and data science, and it helps users to create shareable web apps with very minimal coding effort. And for very basic projects, like let's say you want to visualize something or want to make a small demo with your data, you can easily create a demo using Streamlit, whereas Gradio is more focused on creating an UI for your machine learning or deep learning models. And all of the Hugging Face ecosystem uses Gradio for deploying the machine learning models. And the good part is that it has a like in the terms of like the how it works more around functions, and unlike Streamlit, which uses a script like workflow. So both have their pros and cons that we will look at the end. So before that, I'll present you today's agenda. So today we're gonna look at today we're gonna get an introduction to UI elements, which like buttons, text field, drop-down menus, and sliders and checkboxes. Like these are the elements which you can gather together to make a small UI. And then the next part, we will look at the like some of the examples of Streamlit and Gradio, where we will make a data explorer and a college fest registration website. So before we start, I'll post a link in the chat where you will find the code. So yeah, I put two links in the chat. The first one is for the Gradio notebook, and the second one is for the Streamlit. So I would ask everyone to go to the Streamlit notebook, and I'll also share the collab link as well. So if you are working on collab with these, I'll can just directly go to these and run it. Uh, yeah, please let me know if you have some issues. Okay. Is it okay this much? Yeah. Yep. Did I resume? It's okay. Yeah, Zoom people are not responding. I'm not sure. Yeah, mix is okay. Yeah, so let's start with installing Streamlit, and there are some libraries which you will use to open your app, which runs in this collab notebook, and show it to the world. So we'll start with running this first notebook. The first cell of this notebook, which will install Streamlit, local tunnel, and the Cloudflare, which tunnels your browser to the world. Okay. Once we have installed all the three packages required, we can start our local tunneling by running the next step. Ah, yeah. So this would be your link for running all the Streamlit apps. And so that's my link. If you're trying in your own collab, then probably you'll get a different link. And when we open this, it says a bad gateway because like nothing is running. We just have our port and the server displayed to the world. But when we first start with our Streamlit app, so ideally you have to create an app.py, but using this magic function of Jupyter Notebook, we can. So it will open the app.py file and then append all of the text below into a app.py file. So st.title is just one function which you can use to have a title on a Streamlit app. So once when I run this and then run the Streamlit command to display, now your app.py is running, and so when you refresh, you'll see your Streamlit app being displayed on the link in your collab notebook. Yeah, so that's what we did in the previous cell that we started with Streamlit. We put a title to our app. We said my first Streamlit app, and then we ran the Streamlit command to display. And now it's running on your local host, and the two packages and the local tunnel package which we have installed before, it's tunneling your local server and displaying it on this Cloudflare link. Now we go to the next part, which is adding a simple text. So let's say after defining your title, you want to say or welcome people to your website, then you can just add a small, simple text. And then once you go back to your Streamlit app, what's happening? Oh, not F01. System.
So your URL is going to change every time you do this.
No, so it's fixed for 1% because yeah, so your URL would be the same. So
is it per computer or
per collab account.
collab account?
So if you shut it down and then run it again, it will show another link. So this is one way to like show your local server to the world. So you can probably use some complex tool and run something, and then people can access your website. Yeah, so once you, please correct the typo, it's app.py in this file. And once you run it and go back to your app, it will say the source file has changed because now we have put welcome text other than my first Streamlit app text. And once you click on rerun, it will rerun again and show that. So it will show two things. The first is your Streamlit app title, and then next comes the text which you have shown, which says, "Hello world, welcome to my Streamlit app." Now we go next to adding user input to make it more user-friendly. Let's say you wanna ask someone to put their username, and when they put their username, just please edit all to app.py. Yeah, so once you run the next command, it will insert an user input field. And once you again rerun it on the same link, it will ask you like enter your name, and like I can enter my name here. And it has press enter to apply, but since we haven't defined anything in the backend, like what to do after somebody puts their name here, like if I put enter, then like nothing happens. So we need to put some functionality again here. So the next part is how we add an output here. So instead of just taking an input, we put this st.write output thing, which displays whoever puts the name. And you can see this whole script is very procedural, that we haven't used any functions yet. It just calls the main Streamlit library and displays. So this is more, so Streamlit is more like a scripting styled library. In the next part, when we'll see Gradio, you'll see more functional programming there. So once we go back to our app and let me run it once. Yeah, it again says source file chain, and we again say rerun. So now it just say my name. Let's say I rerun it and it refreshes, and then it says enter your name. And when I say my name again and press enter, now it says welcome to Streamlit, and whatever name you put in your uh, text input. Yeah, next we go back to make it more dynamic, I would say. So you can upload tables or have a CSV file ready to upload. So if you run this next cell, it's gonna replace whatever we wrote in the app.py and replace this all with all of this code. So next we go and then it says rerun. Yeah, so now all of you are welcome to Streamlit, and then uh, welcoming the person who has typed the name has changed to a CSV visualizer. So I'll put a file here. So to access that file, I'll give you a link. It's on the data engineering GitHub account. So if you go here and go to datasets, and this, you can see this weather data, which has, so I've simulated this data. It's for like 365 days, starts from 1st Jan, goes till 31st December, and has some random temperature, humidity, and wind speed. So once you download this file, you can go and click this download raw file uh, option to download it. So I already have it with me. And then if I go here and browse to files, and if I just say weather data.csv and select, and then if I click on this checkbox which says show raw data, then it processes, and we can see the CS. So the your app was able to process the CSV and render it to the UI. Yeah, people on Zoom, please let me know if you are able to reach this step.
Even download didn't work, so what happened?
Can you click?
Say that.
Yeah, so what's happening is that your tunnel is not just saying there is a tunnel, but it's not running anything in the backend. So then you have to run the next two cells to say that on the port 8501 there's some app running, and then it will, if you refresh that, it will run. Yes, so now you can see that your app. So yes. People attending in person, everything good.
What is the no hop command do?
Yeah, so NoHub runs your commands in the back so that we don't have to wait for it to complete and go to the next cell. So it kinds of like pushes your whatever you want to run. It just runs as like some command at the back. Yeah.
So no hop is no.
Yeah.
So when you disconnect, it doesn't drop, your process doesn't die.
Yeah.
Windows continue in the background.
Yeah.
Connect back.
So your tunneling doesn't drop. It will keep tunneling because it's running in the background. Yeah. People on Zoom, is everything good? Okay, let's move ahead, and next we will use the same CSV, but we'll do more functional stuff. We're gonna plot some things. So for example, here we see temperature, humidity, wind speed, and how it changes with each day. But if let's say if you're able to plot it visually, then probably you'll get a better understanding of this data. So let's go and run the next cell below this plotting data and tables. And if I run this, it will run. And then if I go again, it will again say source file changed. So if I go here, refresh my browser again, and so now instead of what's the name? Yeah, instead of just displaying the data, we can plot the contents of the file. So again, we go to weather data here and then select it. So in addition to the show raw data checkbox, we now have two options to plot. So, and then this drop down will give you like what kind of plot you want. So let's say you want to plot a line plot. So let's try that. And then you want to plot, let's say, temperature and then humidity. So it will process, and now you can see that for all the 365 days, you will have like some plot. And now let's say if I want to add like temperature or wind speed here, now you can add wind speed as well. So in this way, you can create demos where if people can load their data and then can interact with their data to also plot it. Instead of, let's say, if I gotta make a bar plot, then now it just renders it to a bar plot. Let's say you want to just plot one variable at a time. So we can delete the columns and then it can plot. So that's a good thing about not temperature, for about Streamlit, that it's like very dynamic and it just updates the UI based on the options you select. But once you see Gradio, you will see that, okay, it's not very, so Gradio doesn't really follow live updates, which we'll see in another example. Now, instead of this, we'll go ahead and make some applications, like use whatever we have learned till now. So now to explore this Arizona Housing Data Explorer. So this data is obtained from Zillow, I think, which has all the housing information for the houses and their attributes, like how much, how many number of rooms they have, what's the area, what's the price, and so on and so forth. So once you run this command here and then go back, rerun.
When somebody uploads a data set to your Streamlit, can you see what they've uploaded at all, or is it just on their end, or can you interact?
So
with
if
them?
you are trying to run it using or your own collab, so right now everyone is using their own collab for the compute for this app, and it's rendered using the tunnel for the world, and you are using it. But let's say if let's say I create one app and show it to everyone, then I have to make sure that whoever accesses that app has its own session, so which it's not there right now. So let's say, for example, in the next week's uh, workshop, I will show a demo on how do you convert speech data to text. So let's say if I share my app and if that functionality to show different sessions to different people is not there, then it will just like how I would say, it's just like overlaps with 3 or 4 users and then it messes up things.
If I were to go to your address right now, what would happen for me?
So since you're not loading anything, so it will remain the same. But instead of in the previous app, once you load the data, let's say CSV, and if I do the same thing, it will mess up my app. Because at the back end, it just says whatever user uploads, save it as a temporary CSV. Yeah. So you can try going to probably the URL which I show here and see.
That you're making.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you can see that.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so coming back to this app, let's explore the code first. So like now we have an image and then the tables. So Streamlit provides you this functionality that you don't really have to do anything fancy. You can just go and then say you want to show this image on. So you can use st.image, which will like use this image which is online and then grab it from the URL and put it on your app, and you can adjust width here, then put a title, lots of sidebars. And now once we go to the app, you can pick your county. So let's say you want to filter all this data, which is like very big. So if I remove this Pima County option, then it doesn't show anything. Now, if I go here and let's say if I want to see things for Pima County and I pick it from here, it starts showing me the housing data for Pima County. And one good thing about Streamlit is that you can just like expand your tables here, how much you want to see here. And then also this scroll bars option as well. So you can look at specific columns. Now, and then you can also use some filters here. So let's say I want to filter this data set. So I just want to see houses till 3 million. Then it's because in the right, you can see it's running and then Once it filters the data, you would be able to see the filtered data frames here. Yeah, so now it has filtered all the houses above 3 million, and you can see from 150K to 3 million. These are all the houses here. Instead, you want to look from zip code wise. So here, again, in the dropdown, you can pick zip, and then, so this is where I live in 85719, and here it's the same thing. Now it sorts based on zip code, that how many houses are there, what's the latitude and longitude, how many homes are sold, what's the inventory, everything. And let's say you want to see uh, for the zip code here, let's say some other zip code. Yeah. Yeah, so now the zip code lies in Maricopa County. So now you can filter the data here like that. Yes, and this way you can make your own tool. So this is just a demo for like the housing market of Arizona, but you can use any other CSV file and make it more interactive for the users. Okay, let's go and check the next application, which is a college fest registration app. So let's say you are organizing a small fest, or let's say here at U of A, you are a member of a club, and whenever the new students come, you want to set up a registration app for your club. So once you run the next cell, it all render all the code. And before going to the app, we can see we have a function which puts the whatever you have into a data frame. So this is for, let's say after the fest, you want to see who has registered. So there will be a file available at the backend which you can download to get a list of all the registrants. Now in the main function, we have an image. So this image has so what's happening here? Still loading the same. Yep. So here, let's say the name of your fest is IV Spectrum. So now, and you want people to register, or let's say somebody joins your club or wants to know more about it. So you want their information. So you can have an image and a title, and let's say you already have some data with you. Now you just want to append new registrants to the previous data. So you can have our registrants.csv file here, and then once somebody uses this, then so you can put name like, let's say I put my name and then my email. It's my age, my college name, universe, Zona, and then now again you can give a lot of options like what events on. Let's say I want to go to a cultural fest, a sports meet, and I need accommodation and have my dietary preferences. Let's just vegan and then register. So once they press register, it generates a unique ID, which is like a 8 character hash, which maps that registrant to a unique ID here. And this all information goes into registrant.csv. So once you go to the backend, you can see there's a file registrations.csv. And once I click on it, I can see that, okay, this guy had this unique ID and with the email and this and whatever he wants. So that's how you can capture student registrants using this kind of function, this functionality using Streamlit. Yeah, so that was the end of the demo for Streamlit. Now we move on to Gradio. Uh, So before we move to Gradio, if anyone has any questions, please let me know.
What are the use cases for Streamlit? What do people usually use this? Used at universities? Is it used for?
Mostly for, let's say, if you want to showcase some projects, let's say you want some recruiters to see your app or some projects you did, or let's say you want to make a dynamic resume or a CV, then you can use this. Yeah, it's not very heavy on compute. So the advanced functionality of Streamlit is that once you push your app to GitHub, Streamlit can render that GitHub link and host it. So instead of running through a Cloudflare tunnel, you can run like your name.streamlit.io. So in that way, you can put your code on GitHub and render it using Streamlit. So you don't need any hosting or any compute to showcase your project to the world. Yeah, I'll close the Streamlit now, and then we will move on to Gradio. So for Gradio, you don't really need anything, is because that's like one good thing about Gradio is that everything, whatever you want to run, you can run it in the Collab notebook itself. It does provide a link, but it also provides the functionality of running things in the browser itself. So I'll put this link again in the chat, and once you click on that, it will open the same Collab notebook using your own Google Drive and using your own Collab. Where's the chat? So once you have this notebook in your Collab, you can start running it by clicking the first cell, which will install Gradio onto the Collab server, and let's wait for some time. So for this part, for Gradio, we will be doing the same thing what we did for Streamlit, making the same kinds of UI, but the code will be different. Like you can see, it's more functional and it doesn't execute like in a script-like way, like one line after the other. So once you've installed Gradio, we can just go to the next cell, and we'll just directly go to adding a title and a user input and output. So once you run the cell, it will create a Gradio interface, and yeah, let it run. Yeah, once it runs, you can run the next cell, which will launch the interface, and the share equals true is important because it tells the Gradio app that you want to share your app to the world, and it will create a temporary link. So in this way, you don't really have to tunnel anything or use the NPM or local tunnel to implement this step. So once I launch my interface, it will provide me a link, but it also provides me another option that if you don't want to go to this link, then it just renders your app into the Collab notebook itself. So you can try it here. Let's say I'll put my name here and I submit. So in the output, it will just say like name X, Y, Z, ABC. And then if you submit, it says hello XYZ ABC again. And we can do the same thing here. Once you click this temporary link. And now we have the same stuff, but it runs on this application. So let's say you host something on your collab and want to show it to the world, then you can share this link and they can test your demos. Yeah, so now again, I'll put my name here and then submit, then I get output hello and then my name there. Okay. Yeah. So in the next part, we'll look at the same functionality for adding a tabular data and seeing the data like what we did with the weather data last time. So here again, if we run this cell, what it is, so like you can see, it's more function. Like first you have to define a visualize CSV function, and then it reads your CSV and then outputs it. And again, here I have to define an interface, but in Streamlit, you just started with st.title and st.your, all of your functions like show text or drop down or checkboxes. So once you run this, again, you get your visualizer in the Collab notebook itself, and again on this link. And once I go to this link again here, and now again, I click here, open my weather data here, and then submit. And then I have to click raw data first and then submit. Yeah, so now once I upload my file, click on show raw data and then submit, then I can see here.
So this won't work on the, in the collab, it won't show on that dynamic interface?
It will.
Because when I upload the file there, it does not, like it uploads, but then it.
Yeah, let me try. So we are in the collab notebook, we go to weather data. And if I show raw data.
Yeah, that's what happened to me. It looked like it loaded, but. then-
Yeah, now it's, yeah.
Okay, huh.
And then if you see,
Why does mine show nothing when I click show out? It looks like it reshapes everything a little bit, but then nothing shows up for me in the raw data.
do you have all the code? Like,
Yeah, I ran the whole cell
Mhm.
before.
Yeah, maybe we can look at the end, right? Like, okay,
Yeah,
yeah, sure. Yes, after this, again, we'll go do the same thing, like we load our CSV and then again do plotting. Yeah, now you'll realize that what are the pros and cons of Streamlit and Gradio, because doing the same functionality with Gradio is not very straightforward. So once I run this, yeah, and then it gives me another link, I go here. Like this. Yeah. Yeah, this is like one bad part about Gradio is that you have to specifically define things before you run anything. It doesn't update things dynamically just by clicking drop down. So once we go here, load our weather data here, then to display, you have to just say like show raw data. And once, if you want to plot, first you have to pick the plot and then put the column names here. So let's say if I copy here and then put it here, it will say error because I forgot to put a comma here. Run. No, it's again giving me error. And go weather data, select this, line plot. I have to rerun. Yeah, that's the bad part about Gradio. It's not very functional. So yeah, now I have the data. I have a line plot. Now I guess. Yes, some error again. What? Why? It just gives me error. Yeah, now it shows. So first you have to define what columns you want to plot and then pick the plot. And now you can say, okay, whatever you want, let's say bar plot, then it renders it as a bar plot. You're gonna pick line plot, now it renders it as a line plot. And going to the next application, we'll again make a, yes.
So how many, for analyzing data, how many types of blocks can you select or?
Yeah, you can select multiple.
But it's using matplotlib?
Yeah, it's using matplotlib.
Any
Any kind of plot. Even you can include plotly so that it uses JavaScript at the back end and shows you like interactive plots. Yeah, typo. So next we use the same housing data now, and then we do this, try to do the same, try to make the same application using Gradio here. And this application will show you that what's the bad part about using Gradio and making very functional demos is that you have to predefine things. Like for example, zip codes. I had to predefine here all the zip codes and then it will predict. So let's say I pick county here and then Pima County. They go down, then submit. So now it shows me a table here. Let's say I want to select zip code, and then we had, so for Streamlit, we had a drop down where we could just type in and select zip code, but here I have to like find. So let's say if I have to find 85719, and then now I pick it here and then run submit. Yeah, I found nothing. Then run the code. And then I submit. Yeah, because max price is set as low. So if I increase the max price, let's see.
How do you choose the order on those? Because
It's just random, I think. Maybe I have to define it in the backend, it's sort it numerically and then show it. Yeah, it doesn't show anything. You just have to go. Oh my gosh. Yeah, now it runs and checks for Maricopa and Pima, and then it shows me what are the houses. So that in that way you can make a housing market analysis tool. Okay, let's go back to the final application. And again, we try to do the same thing, the college fest registration website with Gradio. So once it runs, we can again go here and see like, we see the same functionality here. That was your first name, student registration. I put my own name here, my email, yeah, age. Let's put 0. Buffet, then I wanna go cultural fest, sports meet, yes, and then yes. Yes, and then I do submit. Okay, to be at least 18. So that's like a check built in. Yeah, so now it says thank you for registration, and then it creates a unique ID which is associated with my name. And if I go back to the backend, I can see there is a registration.csv, and once I click it, I see that okay, whatever the user put in, it's saved here, and once the registrations are done, you can download this file from here so that you have a backup of all the people who came to your desk or to your fest. Yeah, same thing again, like instead of running it to a website, it can run things inside the collab notebook itself. And this is useful when you are trying to test things or just trying to debug. Yeah, so if there is any question, please let me know.
What would be a good size for posting your QA or Streamlit apps?
What would be a good site?
Well, yeah,
So if Streamlit can be hosted for free, because once you put your app.py into a GitHub, well, not a GitHub, you make a directory and push it to GitHub, and then go to your Streamlit account and connect that to your that repo on GitHub, it will automatically detect that app.py, copy the code from GitHub, and run it on its own server. So for example, I'll show you one example which okay, thank you so much, Manas. I'll show you one example before we call it a day. So once, yeah. So instead of so for example, I'll show you once it loads. Yeah, here. Let's see. Share screen. Yeah, share. Yeah, so this is one website, or you can say like a UI I made for one of my collaborators. And this is hosted on their server, but whole of the UI is uses Streamlit to design things. And this is more of a application from medicine, or you can say computational biology. We are trying to predict some biological phenomena, and there's like a lot of options here. So this is how you can have your own app hosted on your server. And let's say you develop some tool and you want an UI for that. And so you can attach this for your papers. Let's say you have some bioinformatics application or a clinical informatics application, then you can develop your own UI and then host it. And then, so using Streamlit, the front end part is very easy. So this uses a GPU. So this is one example where you can deploy your machine learning or deep learning models at the back end and have users interact with it using Streamlit. Yeah, and it uses like mostly all the functionality we have discussed, like selection of what's your training database, what's your prediction task, and browse files. You can have user download some sample input. So once I click here, it just gives me like, hey, this is some sample data to test with this UI, and there you have some submit links. And at the end, it's like made with Streamlit. So yep, that's it. Yeah, that's it for today, guys. If you have any questions, please let me know. Yeah, for next week, we'll cover more application-based Streamlit and Gradio. The focus will be more on Gradio because so the next workshop is focused on deploying machine learning and deep learning models and how you can deploy it and then ask users to interact with it. Thanks, Meg, for sharing this link. Guys, please use this link to check in for today's workshop. Yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you.